Good evening, this is STV, and now bringing you all the latest Scottish stories. It's the STV News at 6 o'clock.
Tonight, a seismic victory for Labour. Celebrations as the party claims an overwhelming win in Scotland's first recall by-election.
The enormity of the responsibility I've now got. I mean, it was a fantastic result for us, but that underlines just how important it is now that we deliver.
For the SNP, a disappointing result. As the votes came in, a huge drop and a 20% swing towards Labour.
What now for the SNP and its leader Humza Yousaf? I've been speaking to the First Minister to find out where he goes from here.
Also making the headlines, going through or going home. Scotland gets set for a decisive match against Ireland at the Rugby World Cup. And who would live in a house like this? Well, it could be you. I'm Emma Cameron.
And I'm Kellyanne Woodland in the Rutherglen and Hamilton West constituency. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening from a drizzly Cambuslang in the heart of this constituency, which has been at the centre of a political storm. After last night's resounding by-election victory for Labour, a 20.4% swing from the SNP, this area now has a new Labour MP. For the SNP, it's a worrying time, especially for its leader Humza Yousaf. Could this result signal an end for his party's dominance in elections in Scotland? Well, let's remind ourselves of the results. A clear victory for Labour. As you can see, the party won a 58.6% share of the vote. That's up from 34.5%. The SNP, in contrast, has dropped to 27.6% from 44.2%. So are we seeing a shift in Scotland's politics? Well, we'll have reaction and analysis very shortly. But first, this from our political correspondent, Ewan Petrie.
Welcome to Scotland's newest MP, Michael Shanks!
A seismic and historic win, according to Labour. A single victory, but one they believe promises more to follow.
This result shows not only that people are fed up with two governments that are distracted, out of touch, but also that they're ready for change.
Overnight, Labour doubled its number of MPs in Scotland. A massive swing of more than 20% from the SNP.
It was a fantastic result for us, but that underlines just how important it is now that we deliver. And I've met many, I think thousands of the people who voted for me, and I know what they've told me about their issues, about their concerns. That's now what I'm going to focus on trying to deliver on, and that's a huge responsibility.
To demonstrate a resurgence in support in Scotland, Labour needed to win big. And win big they did.
Michael Shanks, Scottish Labour Party, 17,840.
The scale of the victory suggests this was more than just a tactical vote.
You blew the doors off!
But a shift in Scotland's political landscape.
We are now the party of change here in Scotland. We're the party of change in Britain.
And it points to a clearer path for Labour to secure a majority at a general election next year.
People wanted to come out to vote for Labour yesterday. They wanted, despite the weather, to come out and make it clear that they wanted to put their faith in a changed Labour Party. We will repay that faith, but this is a very strong vindication, if you like, of the hard work we've put in recent years to change the Labour Party. What we now need to do is to take that and use it to change Scotland within a changed United Kingdom. Thank you so much, everyone. Fantastic campaign.
While Labour believe they are now a party on the up, this resounding result will pile more pressure on the SNP leader and First Minister. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
Well, what a night. And our political editor, Colin Mackay, was, as ever, watching it all unfold. Colin, a great night for Labour, clearly, but devastating for the SNP.
This was a spectacular victory for Scottish Labour, but it was a nightmare for the SNP, and it signals a big change in Scottish politics. If we take a look at the last general election results in 2019, Labour only had one MP, that's Ian Murray. Last night's result won't be completely replicated across Scotland in next year's election, but if it was, Labour could end up with 42 seats. Now, since the SNP's 2015 landslide, they've dominated Scottish politics in every election. Last time, in 2019, they won 48 seats. Now, next year, again, if similar results play out, they could be left with just 6. That would be like going back in time to before the independence referendum. So, after a bad by-election result, I spoke to Humza Yousaf.
A disappointing night, a tough night for the SNP, very difficult, of course. There's no doubt a number of factors that played into that. We were told time and time on the doorstep that Margaret Ferrier's reckless actions were counting against us. Of course, the police investigation undoubtedly had an impact as well. But look, the SNP has to reflect. We've got to regroup, we've got to reorganise. We've had tough adversities, tough election results in the past, and we've bounced back stronger. I'm very, very keen to make sure that we're fighting for the next electoral test.
How much responsibility do you take as SNP leader, as First Minister, for this result?
Of course, I'm the leader of the SNP. The buck does absolutely stop with me, but I think everybody knows that this particular by-election has some very difficult contextual factors around it. Margaret Ferrier's reckless actions, of course, came up time and time again. And the police investigation, of course, that's engulfed the party over the last few months, again, came up on a number of doorsteps. So there's a number of difficult issues around this by-election that made it a very difficult night for us indeed.
The buck stops with you, but you just blame Margaret Ferrier on your party.
No, as I said, it's my job to make sure the party reflects, that we reorganise, we regroup, make sure we have a really crisp and well understood message to take to the voters, because I can't get away from the fact that our voters did not come out.
So we heard it there, Colin, the voters did not come out. Where now for the SNP?
Well, they need a big rethink. It's really difficult to persuade voters to come out and vote for a party of independence when that party can't explain to those voters how they're going to get them there. Even harder when it's raining like this, because it was like this in the constituency yesterday. So they really need to work hard how to get out of that. But it's also hard to persuade voters to focus on a constitutional crisis when they're trying to navigate themselves through a cost of living crisis. What Humza Yousaf has to be very careful of avoiding is this becoming a leadership crisis for him. He knows he needs to inspire voters, but here he failed to do that yesterday. Now he has to inspire his own party at their conference, his first conference as leader in just a couple of weeks' time, because this is probably Labour's most important by-election victory in Scotland since Donald Dewar won Garskadden in 1978, stopping the SNP in their tracks at that time. Labour is hoping that last night will turn the tide of the SNP at the moment. Not only that, but chart a route to government for them and to Downing Street for Sir Keir Starmer. But spare a thought for the other parties. Only 2 of the 14 parties saved their deposit last night. For the rest of them, it was a bust.
All right, Colin, well, we'll hopefully hear from you later in the programme. So what has the reaction been here in the constituency? Well, our political reporter, Laura Alderman, has spent the day here and across the area to find out.
As the colours on the trees change here in Cambuslang, so too has its political representation, turning overnight from yellow to red.
Oh, I was quite happy about that then. Aye, as long as it wasn't the Tories.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Me too.
Yeah.
How you feel about the result?
Absolutely gutted that Katie Loudon wasn't voted in. I think Margaret Ferrier has just done so much damage to the party.
Well, I was quite pleased, genuinely. I think it was time for change in Cambuslang and Rutherglen and this area.
For many people here in this constituency today, there will be a sense of relief that this saga is finally over. It's been almost 3 years since Margaret Ferrier got on that train while she had COVID. And for many people in the area, they don't feel like they've been properly represented since then. Customers at this cafe in Burnside say there's been a real appetite for change.
Voted for Labour.
And why was that?
We need to get the lunatics out of the asylum, so it's a Westminster election, so it's about time they actually flushed that system out. So I think by voting Labour, well, two reasons as well. The chap that stood for Labour's a decent sort.
Elaine and Gillian have lived in the area for almost 4 decades.
I put in a spoiled vote paper.
Why did you do that?
Basically because I don't trust politicians anymore. I voted Labour because I couldn't vote SNP. I'm afraid our last MP has deflated me totally, I have to say. How could somebody that represents us act in that manner? And it made me angry, and I'm still angry when I think about it.
At this farm shop in High Blantyre, customers are hoping their new MP will listen to what they want.
Food and basic essentials are just so expensive, and people are really, really struggling, and something's got to change. And I'm all for anybody who wants to come in and do something about it, but something needs to change on it.
To be honest, I did expect Labour to win, just the way things have been going recently. But for me, I still want independence.
I'm delighted, absolutely delighted that SNP didn't get back in. Delighted.
Voters here have made their choice. Michael Shanks will be sworn into Westminster in a couple of weeks' time. Laura Alderman, STV News.
Well, that's it from me in Cambuslang for the moment. I'll be back later in the programme, but for now, it's over to Emma for the rest of the day's news and sport.
Thanks for that, Kellyanne. Well, in today's other news, Police Scotland has cancelled plans to take on 200 new recruits in January in an